So let's talk about the journey to secure attachment, specifically as a dismissive avoidant attachment style. If you're enjoying the content here at the Personal Development School, please like, share, and subscribe and hit the notification bell. And don't forget to stick around till the end of this video where we are going to talk about how to fit your needs into this dynamic with the dismissive avoidant as well. So in order to become securely attached, there are 6 major things that you need to be able to do. Now, this is according to the entire body of work that I published and copyrighted all about integrated attachment theory. Essentially, what we talked about is we have traditional attachment theory, and traditional attachment theory covers a lot to do with childhood attachment development in terms of relationship between child and caregiver, and the temperaments that are likely to form. But what we did is we took it far beyond that, and we decided, okay, we have to understand how these attachment patterns work and essentially what the rules are we learned about love at the subconscious level, right? These are the ways we got conditioned. And so then we have to be able to unpack that. And in order to become securely attached, there are 6 major areas that you need to target. I'm going to go through them with you specifically in this video in regards to a dismissive avoidant in particular. Now, these 6 major categories we'll cover are exactly the 6 things that all attachment styles need to focus on in order to become secure, but they just have different variations in terms of how this works. And if it sounds like it doesn't make sense now, it will make a lot of sense in just a moment. So the first major area is dismissive avoidants need to learn to recondition old core wounds. This is what I mean by core wounds being one of the 6 major areas, but there are different core wounds as a DA versus as an AP, for example. So you'll see as a dismissive avoidant, one of the sets of major core wounds you'll see is dismissive avoidants are afraid to feel defective or like something's wrong with them. It's a deep core wound. Basically, all dismissive avoidants carry because of childhood emotional neglect. And this will cause a dismissive avoidant. Like whenever you feel it, I think of this as the shame wound because the emotion of shame always goes along with this wound. And when you feel ashamed of yourself or embarrassed, what do? You want to hide. You want to distance yourself. You want to keep people at arm's length so they don't see you. And this is a huge part of actually what drives dismissive avoidants to want to create space between themselves and others is actually because of the defectiveness core wound. So we have defective, we have unsafe. Dismissive avoidants generally have a dysregulated nervous system, and we're going to come back to that. But the fear of conflict and just the fear of feeling unsafe because they feel kind of out of control is a huge driver for DAs. And this is why they tend to like their routine, their sense of security, stability, time to themselves where they're fully in control of their own domain. So defectiveness, unsafe, not good enough, or incapable can be the expression or form it takes place in for DAs. Trapped, weak, if they're vulnerable, I am weak core wound, and helpless, if they rely on others, I am helpless. So these tend to be really big core wounds for dismissive avoidance, and we actually have to recondition these. Now, we leverage reprogramming principles here. We can leverage repetition and emotion in the form of a tool called autosuggestion that I have other videos about on this platform, but we have a ton of videos about reconditioning inside PDS. So essentially the first major category for DAs to recondition these core wounds, leveraging repetition and emotion, because that's what fires and wires neural pathways. So if we stop feeding into these core wounds, we divest from them and we create new neural pathways that essentially counteract these, and we use repetition and emotion to get there. It's a huge part of how we fire and wire new neural pathways while old ones atrophy over time, sort of like how muscles atrophy essentially. Category 2, getting in touch with feelings. It's a huge part of dismissive avoidance work. They have to learn to get in touch with their feelings. Now, the emotional processing is the major category for all attachment styles. FAs need to learn to process their emotions better. APs need to learn how to self-soothe, but DAs actually need to learn to get in touch with their emotions. And we do this through somatic processing and nervous system regulation. When you can learn to get out of fight and flight mode and into rest mode, presence mode, feeling comfortable and safe to be in your own body and to be present in your own life. This is part of how we can re-regulate the nervous system. And then if we pair that with some somatic processing tools to get comfortable feeling feelings and essentially just noticing that they are sensations, and then doing a little bit of exposure work on that so that you're pushing yourself to practice that over time until it gets patterned in to your body and mind, then we turn the emotional relationship back on with the DA and they're not afraid of their feelings anymore. Because remember, a big part of why DAs avoid feeling their feelings is because they're scared to feel in the first place, right? There's this avoidance of self, which leads to a shrunken emotional bandwidth and then an avoidance of others, right? I don't want to be there for your feelings if I can't even be there for mine. That's sort of like the mind frame of a DA, essentially. We have core wounds, we have emotional patterns, and we have needs. Needs and learning needs is absolutely massive for a DA. They need to learn to not just understand that they have needs, but they actually have needs from other people. This looks like them understanding what they're looking for in relationships. And so many dismissive avoidants, because I've had this conversation hundreds, if not thousands of times with different DAs over the years, so many dismissive avoidants say things like, I don't have needs from others. I don't think there's anything I really need. I don't want to have needs from others. I don't want to rely on other people. And the reality is we all have needs from others. It's inescapable. And it's a part of a healthy interdependent relationship. The ability to rely on self and other without them being mutually exclusive dynamics. And this is actually part of what's so important about relationship dynamics, right? About securely attached relationship dynamics. So DAs, in terms of steps, they really need to learn what their needs are and then how to communicate them to others and how to actually receive them. And we do this through practice and then exposure work consistently over time. Remember, this is all according to integrated attachment theory. And this is what we've seen work tremendously for people. In fact, when we saw people really plug into this for 90 days and spend a couple hours a week really unpacking this and showing up and doing the work, over 90% of students in PDS became dominantly securely attached. So over 50% secure. And it's work. Don't get me wrong, but it's extremely rewarding and beautiful work, and it's life-changing, right? Like it really, really makes a massive difference. I just wanted to pop in here and let you know we are doing a 7-day free trial to the All Access Membership Pass at PDS, which means you get access to literally everything inside of the school. And this includes the 4 live webinars I do with our students every single week. And on top of that, you get access to all of our different courses. We have over 55 different courses on relationships, communication, boundaries, emotional mastery, guilt and shame, learning your needs, so many different facets that are really important to master our lives and feel really good about our lives going forward. And last but not least, there's a daily community event. We have trained facilitators and coaches who are in there doing that work, showing up to support you on your journey every single day. Please join me on the other side. Come check it out. See if it's a fit for you. I'd love to see you there. Go ahead and sign up by clicking the link in the description box below. So we've got core wounds, emotional patterns, needs, and we've got boundaries. Learning what boundaries are, learning healthy boundaries, learning to communicate boundaries. I mean, there's just a few really simple steps in regards to boundaries, but dismissive avoidants do this thing with their boundaries where they just keep somebody so far away because they don't know how to set the little boundaries, right? So they just set big boundaries. Like an example would be instead of saying, hey, I'd love to hang out over the weekend, but can we stay in instead of going out because I'm just not feeling like going out or I don't want to spend the money or whatever it might be. DAs just say, hey, I can't hang out this weekend, right? They just cancel plans instead of communicating what a boundary would be for them, what they're okay for or not. And so DAs need to learn to find more of that gray area with their boundaries, that middle ground. And because they believe people won't meet their needs or hear them out with their boundaries, and they didn't see compromise in their household model to them growing up, they assume that it's almost like an unknown to a DA. They don't even realize that they can communicate like that and get their needs met. And as they do, they'll see that relationships are more adaptable and that they can really have what they need and have companionship and romantic partnership with others at the same time. And they don't have to be these mutually exclusive dynamics. We've got core wounds, emotional patterns, needs, boundaries. Then we have just learning to communicate. Just a few simple tools for communication goes a really long way. And DAs just need to learn to communicate what their needs and boundaries are, essentially. It's essentially an extension of what we just talked about, but just the act and practice of getting comfortable communicating. My goal that I set for all of our students at PDS is sharing and talking about your needs should be as comfortable as saying, hey, can you pass me a glass of water? Can you pass me that pen right there? Like it should feel that simple, that easy. I know for me personally, because I was a really strong fearful avoidant, at first when I was trying to communicate needs, I remember the first time I really communicated a need in a romantic relationship and it terrified me. It was so scary for me. And it's normal to feel like that at first, right? It feels very vulnerable and really unfamiliar and out of your comfort zone. But when you practice doing exposure work on it a lot, and then you also know that you can meet your own needs. It's not like you're like, you need this person to meet your need or nobody will, when it's not this like hanging by a thread, like really threatening thing. And you're like, hey, I can meet my needs, but it would be important for me to have this person meet my need in this context. You ask, you're not so attached to the outcome. It just gets easier and easier over time until it really is so normal and a part of your reality. You know, that's just such a massive part of becoming secure. Last but not least, the other big thing that we have is we've got core wounds, emotional patterns, needs. Then we have the ability to set boundaries, to communicate, and then to update to healthier behaviors. So it's really breaking down these old, outdated coping mechanisms we have where maybe, for example, when you're stressed as a DA, you binge eat, or you unplug and you just plug into video games for 6 hours, or to binge watching television, or these things that are not really helping serve your highest self, right? You're just like in survival mode and you're meeting maybe survival needs or needs for comfort, safety, that kind of stuff, but you're not actually nourishing yourself when you're meeting these needs. So we can recondition those coping mechanisms by understanding, hey, if you're doing those things to get needs met for comfort or for safety, there's actually healthier ways to get these needs met. And actually a huge one plays into that nervous system regulation stuff we talked about earlier. Because if you're not in fight or flight mode all the time, you feel safer in your own body, your own skin. And then you're not trying to compensate from that all the time by going, oh my gosh, I feel unsafe. I feel dysregulated. Okay, I'm going to try to regulate myself through binge eating food or watching tons of television, or these things that numb you and kind of calm you, but they're not nourishing you. They're not like replenishing you. They're pacifying you. And there's actually a really big difference. This is the journey to healing dismissive avoidant attachment style, on the journey to secure. And I hope you enjoyed this. And if you're enjoying this video or these videos in general, please consider subscribing to the channel. I would super appreciate it. And I put daily videos here. So if you want to hit the notification bell, you won't miss any. Thank you for watching.